What is going on, guys? We got guys waiting, saying knock, knock. They ready? I don't know. They joined before we even started. But hey, welcome back to your Lake Fork Guide. It is Thursday Night Live, coming to you from a special, not our normal location, as you can tell. We're at my good buddy. Oh, Zeta, what you got going on over here, Z?
Man, I'm just about to get the temperature right on this baby right here, and we're going to throw them on the grill, son. We're going to do it up right.
We're going to fire it up on the grill.
Yes,
we got a
sir.
supersized bird dog. Roo, come here, Roo.
Big Roo.
Big Roo, look at Big Roo. Here she is. This is our supersized bird dog right here. You can tell she got one of them wide backs, you know what I mean? She fetch all them birds. Actually,
She look like a bed and bass.
she does.
She looks like a bass on the bed.
She's permanently pre-spawned, baby. That's what she's doing.
But I dare anybody to try to come through that gate over there.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So, hey, we are going to talk about fishing tonight. We're going to get into top 5 baits. Z-Dub's going to help me out with the discussion. Y'all saw me and Z-Dub fishing together for the first time in a long time this week. Had a great time the other day, didn't we, bud?
Oh, son, you can't compare, baby.
I'm telling you, so much fun. So, hey, we're going to get into that kind of right now. You ready?
Yeah,
Let's go sit down and talk to him about fishing tonight, man. All right, y'all bear with me. I'm going to get all hooked up to the charger. Get the phone set up so I can start reading comments.
Get that grill there at about 175.
You got that grill going? That's live.
Yeah. Mama T-Dub. She's being on camera. And she did it to herself, didn't she?
She was dancing live.
Dylan, that's your mama. If you're watching, that's your mama.
That is the greatest moment in the history.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how many hundreds of videos I've done at this point. That's probably my favorite moment of
She
all
still
time
going.
on this channel.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Let's see who's joining us tonight. We got.
Hashtag when you're married to a coon-ass woman.
That's right. That's right. We got Rob's World, Crappyitis, Jack Attack, Random Skills, 6 Mile. That's Big John down there. Back. We got a lot of Johns. We got a lot of Johns. Richard Watts, where y'all at?
Where y'all at? At the party deck, Paul. Where you think we at?
Z-Dub's dad. He knows exactly where we are. I don't know what he's talking about. Man, it's good to be here with you tonight, dude. I'm so excited. We're going to talk some fishing. Yeah, let's talk some fishing because we did spend a day on the water together this week, and I've obviously fished pretty much every day like I tend to do. Merry Christmas, by the way.
Absolutely.
Christmas was yesterday.
Merry Christmas, and hope everybody has a very safe and happy New Year.
That's right. That's right. Hey, 2020 is going to be a good year to catch some fish. We're going to get after them like we always do. And I have every intention of making 2020 the best year we've ever had fishing-wise. So, the deal is right now we've got a little bit of warmer weather.
Mm-hmm.
So, honestly, this New Year's weekend is going to be a good time to get out and go fishing.
Man, this weekend is going to be jammed up because it's once we get to Saturday, Sunday, that's going to be like our 5th warm day and decently warm night.
The front blows through Saturday in the middle of the day. So, if you can avoid the rain and get out there and do it, I highly suggest that you do because if you can be out there right as that front blows through, this should be a good one to be fishing.
Yeah, man, you might be able to load the boat.
Absolutely. So, that's great. So, let's get into the top 5 baits. You know, that's what the folks come here for.
That's why they're here,
That's
baby.
why they're here. So let's talk about top 5 baits. If you're going fishing this weekend, the number 1 bait that I think you ought to have in your arsenal is going to, without a doubt for me, be the jerkbait. And I'm not a real big jerkbait fisherman, but they're biting a jerkbait on just about every lake that you can go to right now.
They are.
I just fished a jerkbait show with Ronnie Kelly on Lake Palestine the other day. They're biting a jerkbait on Lake Fork. They're biting a jerkbait pretty much anywhere you want to launch a boat. They'll bite a jerkbait right now. So it's a good time of year to throw jerkbait. Even somebody that doesn't really, I'm not a big jerkbait guy, I can catch them on a jerkbait right now, which means somebody that knows what they're doing could really whack them on a jerkbait.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, we dealt with this because it was tough conditions.
It was real tough.
But there's something else that goes on these warmer days. Those fish get up out of those creek channels, they come out of that deep water a little bit, and they ease up on these shallow areas.
That's right.
And when they do that, even though it is a warming trend, it's still cold water, they can be a little lethargic. And when fish are shallow and they're a little lethargic, there's really nothing better than a wacky worm, which is what me and you primarily use.
The old whack.
I think we caught every fish in that episode
on a wacky worm. And it's funny because we tried to get up shallow. Yeah. I mean like real shallow, beyond the grass line.
We tried a lot of
open
things.
holes. And what'd we do? We figured out, let's get on the deepest grass line we could find, on the outside edge. Now, let's flip them wacky worms in there and just let it fall off the edge down there, and that's when they hit it.
I don't think this weekend's going to be the time you need to key in on the outside edge deal because of the warm weather. But the bottom line is anytime you have cold weather and fish are shallow, a wacky worm's always a good idea. It's always a good idea. It's such a finesse technique. They have a hard time turning that lazy meal down. That do-nothing meal that gives them no negative cues. They have a hard time turning it down. So wacky worm's always going to be good. You can still get some fish to bite in Alabama. a lot of these offshore fish, these winter home fish that are later spawners, they don't move to their spawning grounds till later in the year. There's a lot of those gathered up offshore on these lakes. Bridges are probably your number one best bet. We did a lot of talk about bridges in the seminar the other night. That's going to be your best bet, but also road beds, humps, pond dams, stuff like that. There's fish gathered on these areas. So if you're an offshore guy and you find some fish gathered up offshore, an Alabama rig, to me, is the best bait you can throw.
Well, just pay attention to your graph as well and kind of search back to some of B-Law's earlier posts. He's going to show you what it looks like when there's a group of bass piled up offshore over, say crappie that are going to be stacked up on top of each other.
That's right.
Bass are going to be spread out a little bit more. They're going to be a little bit thicker. Going to have a lot of sand bass out there. You might have to fight through a few of those with that Alabama rig before you get to the bass. But great, probably my favorite time of the year to really learn and dial in my electronics for these, because they will be grouped up out there, and you can kind of tell the difference between one and the other, which will help you all year long.
That's right, absolutely, 100%. It's a great time to learn about electronics. There's no doubt about that. Winter is great for that. And the next bait I'm going to throw in there is going to be a bait that's not necessarily one that I think you're going to go out. It's not like this weather conditions this weekend don't really. Now Sunday sets up good for it, but weather conditions don't really necessarily set up good for this. But it's never wrong to put a jig in your hand in December.
Oh man.
Or January, and we're kind of at the end of December going in January. Like, you got to have the jig in there this time of year, and you go to these creek bends. Now I'm going to focus more on shallower creek bends. Creek bends that bottom out in the bottoms of them anywhere from 8 to 12 foot. The top's going to have 4 to 6 foot, 7 to 8 foot on top. So a little bit shallower creek bends. But the deal with that jig is, at any moment, the biggest fish of your lifetime can show up any second, and with total, been fishing that jig all day, ain't got a bite, and all of a sudden the moment of your life can happen.
Yeah.
It's happened so many times over the years. So many. If you go back and look at the history of the biggest fish in the state of Texas and see how many of them were caught on a black and blue jig sometime in the winter months, it's pretty astounding. So you can't not have a jig in your top 5 this time.
You got to have one tied on. I was talking to B-Law earlier. We was out there filming a little bit of other footage, and we were talking about fishing this time of year because, be honest with you, old Z-Dub now, he's usually at the deer camp every weekend this time of year, but I've really tried to fish a lot more in the winter time. So I try to pick B-Law's brain every chance I get, and I'm like, talk to me about wintertime fishing and the jig. Isn't this the right time to be really? And two things that stood out to me of what B-Law told me earlier is this is the peak season for the jig.
Yeah.
Okay. And number 2, it's PB season. And if y'all don't know what that means, personal best season from now to the end of May.
Yeah, it's a great time to catch the biggest fish of your life on the jig. There ain't no doubt about that, man. No arguing about that. And we're going to stick with 4, okay? That's what we're going to do, 4, because that's the 4 baits that I'm really concentrating on right now. Now, if you're going to go for 5, we'll say if you're going to go to a power plant lake, all I got to tell you is it's spawning time. And that means a lot of things are at play. That means you could go fish, Texas rig plastics. Wacky worm is still good at spawning time. Obviously, really good at spawning time. But your moving baits too, your swim baits, your chatter baits, all these type of things, and even topwaters. Topwaters are a player at the there's a frog bite going on at some of these power plant lakes right now. So if you're going to power plant lakes, I'm not going to give you a bait. What I'm going to tell you for number 5 is if you're going to power plant lakes, think late March.
Yes.
That's what you want to think of when you go to power plant lakes right now.
And let me ask you this: since you brought it up about possibly some fish being on beds on some of these power plant lakes, talk about how you feel in regards to water clarity versus bait color. I see a lot of fishermen flipping white baits at beds, mainly so they can see the bait. I mean, that's not, to me, that's not, that ain't the way I like to do. I like for it to be natural to the fish, not to me.
Well, the other reason I like it to be natural to the fish, I actually, especially with being a guide, having customers in the boat when I'm trying to bed fish with them, and I got this, the hint about this, or the clue about this, from Zach Hughes, a great Lake Fork guide, a good buddy of mine. He's an amazing fisherman. He's one of the best sight fishermen on planet Earth. There's make no bones about it. This cat caught double digits back-to-back days in a row this year on bed fishing. He's unbelievable.
He can just see them, can't he?
Yeah, he can see them better than everybody, but he knows how to get them to bite too. And one of the things that I learned from him was you throw natural color baits, and the deal is when you're bed fishing, especially with customers, I don't want my customer to see that fish bite, because those fish will bite and spit so many times on a bed. Unless you're a real experienced hand, I don't want you to see that bait get bit. I want you to feel that fish have it. Mm-hmm. And so natural bait kind of makes it to where you can't see it, and it'll make you catch a higher percentage of your bed fish, because when you're bed fishing, okay, and you flip in there and you feel that bite, if you wait till you feel it, you'll hook more of them. But if you see somebody and you swing early and jerk that bait away, you can spook that fish to a point where it never comes back. But if that fish bites your bait and spits it out and then you don't have him, he'll bite again on the next cast.
Because we've all been there before.
Yeah.
That first 1 or 2 bites you're gonna get, he's just nipping at the end of it to try to push it out or jerk it out.
A lot of fish
are
that way on the bed. Yeah. So yeah, I like to use natural colors when I'm bed fishing as well. Absolutely. All right. Hey, we did have, before we get to questions, we had a couple things that we need to talk about. You're supposed to remind me what they were and you didn't. So you're fired. God. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on. You're fired.
Yeah. You're fired. If I'm not mistaken, I think.
Well, we've got a big release coming on the Fish
up,
Life. Yeah, Fish Life app is about to have some big news drop. We're not going to disclose it. We're going to announce it on January 1st. But the whole reason I'm over here today is because Mr. Z-Dub helped me film some comment for the announcement day, which is coming up January 1st. We'll be dropping content announcing big news about the Fish Life app. It's going to change. We're going to open up the doors to a lot more people. It is going to be something that I'm really, really excited about.
I can't wait for it. I'm excited myself, but I'm also excited for
everybody's going to get to meet right.
Yeah.
We are really, like, with this deal, it's all about everything that I've done from the beginning and everything that I've tried to be about, and the people that I bring on, I want them to be about it, is just helping each other catch more and bigger fish. That's what we're here to do. That's our purpose. Whether that's through a guide trip, whether that's through a video, whether that's through an application that you put on your telephone. Whatever that is, that's what we want to do. And this year it was awesome watching the Fish Life app progress and see the results and seeing how many people caught PBs, how many people caught double digits, how many people had their best day ever, best bag ever. Like, all that stuff was incredible to see, even just the ones that we got sent in. There was more than that didn't send the news in.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So it was incredible to see that. And this deal is going to take it to a whole new level on the mass scale at which we're going to be able to help people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really, really, really excited about on this aspect. There was something else we were supposed to talk about, and I don't remember what it was, so you think on that a minute, and I'll start answering questions. Is the app going nationwide for lakes, Billy? Listen, I've been holding this announcement forever. We're going to say, stay tuned, folks. January 1st, you will have the answer to that. Somebody said Hubbard sucked today. Hubbard's like right over there. Like, Hubbard's right around that corner right there. I'm sorry Hubbard sucked for you today.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, Hubbard's a tough pond.
It can be bad
on a good day.
It can be bad. It can be really good though. But
it can be really, really, really good, or it can be really bad.
Would you ever? There was a typo here, but I think what he's asking is, would you ever consider making the Fish Life app only 2 weeks behind, not a month? So what I need to explain to you there is, I think maybe there's a little bit of a misinterpretation there. We do update it in the middle of the month when it's needed. If we put spots on there and there's something better happening on the lake, if the patterns change, the conditions change, and something changes on the lake to make different patterns better, we change it. It's never 2 weeks behind. It's always right now. Like, when we put those spots on there on December 1st, these are spots that I think are the best spots for December. If something changes in the patterns that makes those spots not as good anymore, and there's other areas that are better, we change that in the middle of the month. So it's not 2 weeks behind or 1 month behind.
That's the benefit to those premium packages on the Fish Life
that's
app.
why we went
real-time updates when needed.
And that's why we went from the SD card to the app. Because once we made the SD card, that's it.
The information it was what it was.
It was my best guess at the beginning of the month, at the beginning of 2 months at that time. And so we moved it to where on an app, if I need to update it in the middle of the month, I can.
We can do it.
And we do so. Yep. Now, there's times when spots stay on there more than a month. That's because that spot is still producing. That spot is still the best spot I got. So whatever it is that you're seeing on that app is the best information that we have at that time.
Yeah, that's right. The most current information.
The most current and accurate info available on the world of bass fishing today. What lakes are fishing good? I know Welsh, but from what I was told, it's dangerous there. Yeah, Welsh is kind of dangerous. It's a little sketchy launching. You got to be real careful. And running it is not really an option. You have to idle everywhere. But Welsh is fishing good. But all the power plant lakes, Brandy Branch, Martin Creek, they're all fishing good. I'll tell you, there's some other Lake Palestine's fishing really good. You're going to see it on video next week. Lake Palestine is fishing very well. We went out me and Ronnie Kelly went out for a half day. And we didn't just catch a big old bag of best 5 fish, but we caught enough fish for a half day to be fun, and we caught some really nice ones. Like, we would have had a pretty solid bag in just a half day on a jerkbait, all on a jerkbait, just doing one thing. So Lake Palestine's fishing really good. Lake Fork is starting to fish better. There's a lot more fish catching going on at Lake Fork now than there has been for a little while. So everywhere is kind of getting better. And what that is, guys, that's pre-spawn. That's these fish knowing what time of year it is instinctively, and they know that they, especially these pregnant females, they have to. They're gestating eggs. They're pregnant. You ever seen your pregnant wife eat? Like,
yeah,
bro, that's what's going on with these female fish right now.
Well, and you know, Athens is another one you got to throw out there because even on a bad day, it fishes good. You know, I mean, we had a tough day the other day and still managed to bang out
as tough a
some
day
fish.
as I can imagine on Athens, and we caught some solid keepers. And the truth of the matter is, I had one come unbuttoned for no reason. Like,
that had to be a big fish.
A huge fish. We both know. Like, you've been in with me. You know, I've caught 1 million of them. I've been lucky to catch 1 million of them. That was a really, really special fish that would have made our bag a really big best 5 bag if we landed that fish. So even on Athens when it was tough, it was a good day. And we were fishing as post-frontal as it gets that day.
It was. I'll tell you what else, man. I've been getting some good reports from some hands using a fish like that down there on Big Sam.
Big Sam has been kicking out some good fish. Toledo Bend as well. Toledo Bend's been a little tougher than Sam, but Sam Rayburn's fishing really good.
Sam Rayburn just got so much, even dead of winter like this, still has so much healthy grass.
It does. It really does. And Lake Lavon's been kicking out some good fish.
Lavon has been fishing very
Everywhere
well.
you go, basically, right now, what you're going to find is some days are going to be good as far as the general bite goes, and some days are going to be tough as far as the general bite goes. But on all of them, if you stay after, and especially if you're using that Fish Life app, you know you're around fish, and you stick with it, and you get some fish to bite, you're going to catch some quality fish.
Perfect example. 2 weekends ago, I went to Lavon one day. We caught the heck out of them. Went to Hubbard the very next day, very same conditions.
Yeah, didn't catch them.
And didn't catch them. You know, it's just temperamental.
Absolutely. Is there any good lakes near Austin fishing good right now? I don't know. I don't know anything about the Austin fishing scene, if I'm being 100% honest with you. I have no idea. I know that Lady Bird Lake, Town Lake, whatever it's called, the one that's like it's like the Colorado River right in the middle of town. I know there's giant fish in it. I have no idea how it's fishing right now. No clue. Favorite offshore lure on Rayburn, 12 to 20 feet? Well, I'm not really a Rayburn hand anymore. I grew up fishing there, but when I grew up going out there, we didn't really fish offshore.
Yeah,
that wasn't really a thing back then. Oh, you just fish the grass lines and edges. That's what you fish grass. If I was going to Rayburn right now to fish offshore, I would have a big jig and a Carolina rig tied on, without a doubt.
Exactly.
Without a doubt. But you could say that about offshore fishing on any lake any time of year. For me, I'll throw a big jig and a Carolina rig.
And I
don't know how much help that is.
I'd probably have a baby brush hog or some kind of fluke on that Carolina rig.
Yeah, I like the straight tail stuff this time of year. I like the Ned fry from 6 Cents. I like the bubble fry from Smash Tech. But in the warmer months, I 100% go with the baby brush hog and the impact shatter fluke style bait. Andrew asks, Billy, I'm looking to buy a jig rod tomorrow and reel. Are you still rocking with the 7.7 Century for a flipping jig, or have you used the Devon rod yet? Also getting a loose tourney MB. Does the long handle on the Century rod bother you? No, the long handle, I like the long handle, but that's a personal thing. I like the long handle, especially on a jig rod, because you got those big hook sets, and that long handle gives you more leverage and bracing power right there. So I think long handle is actually a good thing for a jig rod. And yes, the Century rod, for a jig rod, you want to spend the extra money and get the sensitivity. It's the lightest, most sensitive rod I've ever used, and that 7.7 heavy is the rod, and it's a light enough rod you can pitch and flip any kind of jig you want to on it, and it horses fish out of the heavy cover that you catch them in on a jig.
It sure will.
That 7.7 heavy Century rod, make no bones about it, I've thrown a jig a long time. I've done, being on Lake Fork, I've done a lot of jig fishing throughout. We throw a jig year round on Lake Fork, we really do. And that is the best. And I've been on a few different rod pro staffs, and I'm fortunate to fish a bunch of different rods. That's the best jig rod I've ever had in my hands. Well, I mean, ain't no doubt about it.
It's a good all-around jig rod too. You can fish a big jig offshore, or you can get up shallow and flip under docks. You know
I can take a 3/8 ounce jig and go to skipping docks, or I can take a 3/4 1 ounce jig and go drag offshore. Like, you can do it all with that. Yes, that is 100% my personal recommendation for a jig rod is the 7.7 heavy Century rod. He said someone was taking your new truck. That was probably, I don't know what he's talking about. Probably at Athens the other day when Dylan switched out the trucks. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, the sirens. He said somebody's taking your new truck. That's great. This dude's name is D Money too. I don't know who that is, but D Money.
D Money.
This is the sirens. So yeah, if you didn't see it, poor old Z-Dub here. He literally had his last truck was stolen.
From right there.
On the other side of that fence.
Literally from right out of my damn driveway.
Somebody stole his truck right out of his driveway, and he's got a new one.
And not only that, but they drove the sucker for about a month and a half, and then they blew the transmission out of it.
Yeah.
So
and
I was forced to get a new big Sherrill.
I can tell you this: his new one is a really nice whip, as they say in the hood. And I'm gonna tell you, if somebody comes and tries to take that truck, they're gonna have a fight on their hands because old Z-Dub's gonna get after them.
Yeah, I don't know how much fight it's gonna be.
Stephen Latham is asking, do I have big plans this weekend? That is one thing I did want to talk about tonight. I do have very big plans. We have a big to-doing shoot coming up. Podcast. We do have a big to-doing filming coming up.
To remind you that.
Milliken Fishing, Luke Duncan, Darian is fishing, and some of the guys from down there at 6 Cents in Willis, Texas, are all coming up. We're all getting together around here in East Texas. We're all going to hang out for 4 days, 4 days, and do a lot of fishing and a lot of filming. And next week is going to be a very fun week to watch the Your Lake Fork Guy channel, no doubt about it. We're going to have some fire content. That's what the young folks say.
Fire.
The ones that don't have gray in their beard, they say fire.
Either that or it's lit. It's going to be lit content. They're going to lit the fire.
I mean, every day is lit. You can't tell me. Started out. Anyway, never mind. I'm not going to go into all my rap lyrics now because it ain't great. The other thing is big announcement. Some of you asked for this for a long time, and I think some of you have given up on it ever happening, but it is finally happening.
It's back.
Proof that when I tell you we're going to do something, we will do it. It just might take a while. The podcast, the Fish Life podcast. The podcast's so nice, we had to start it twice. It's coming back. And episode 1 of the second coming of the Fish Life podcast is going to upload tomorrow. So if you're driving out of town to the lake, headed somewhere, check out the Fish Life podcast. It will be on iTunes. It will be on Podbean. And, of course, we'll put it on the YouTube channel in a video format for you guys as well. So the podcast is back. We had a very special guest on the first episode. The second episode, these will air every Friday. And the second episode...
So they are going to be once a week?
Once a week. Every Friday we're going to do podcast. And the second episode should be something really special, too. So we're trying to do the podcast bigger and better than we've ever done it before. Tony Hollingsworth is asking if I've ever fished Richland Chambers. I've never fished Richland Chambers. I don't know what social media outlets you guys follow or who you follow on social media. But, Tony, if you're a local guy and you saw a certain person talking about Richland Chambers, that they caught some fish out there, Maury Povich said that the tests are in, and that was a lie. So that didn't happen there if that's what you saw. I know you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, Z, but, it's just typical fishing stuff. C-Rig debate. EWG or straight shank J-hook. Okay. The best hook, if I'm being honest, and I've used EWG a lot, but the best hook for certain baits is an EWG, is an offset round bend, which is a J-hook with an offset at the top. And that is the best hook for the skinnier baits, like a baby brush hog, okay? Or a fluke, impact shad type bait. That is really good. You get a fatter bait on there like a bubble fry or a Ned fry, you need an EWG to accommodate that because it has that bigger gap. And you want that bigger gap so when that hook comes out there's a bigger bite. But I do take my EWG hooks on my Carolina rigs and bend them out.
You do?
I do. So that there's basically when I line that hook up and the eye of the hook's right here, and normally on an EWG the point of the hook points right at it, I bend it out so that there's a gap here. So that when that bait collapses, I've got that traction.
Great question.
Great question. Dusty Newton says he's late, but he's here now, man. We appreciate you joining.
What do they say, Dusty?
Jodan says the Richland Chambers deal. He knows what I'm talking about. Jodan, you know what I'm talking about, old JD.
Sound like some shenanigans.
Just, why do fishermen have to lie? They like lying. I don't know why. Ever use the Tokyo rig or thoughts on it? What about Z-Dub, or does he not want to give up his wacky? Hey, Z-Dub's never giving up the wacky. He will throw the wacky every day he fishes for the rest of his life. I promise you that. Am I lying?
No.
No, I'm not. Z-Dub, do you even know what the Tokyo rig is?
Nope.
I do know what the Tokyo rig is. I have not fished it. I don't understand it. It looks like a drop shot with a metal arm hanging off it. I don't get it. Just tie you a really short drop shot leader and it's the same thing. Like, what's so new about it? I don't understand. No, I haven't tried it.
I may try some of these things when fish stop biting a wacky worm, but I mean, they just hadn't yet. And I don't see them stopping.
What are your thoughts on Lake Tyler? My thoughts on Lake Tyler, that's a great question, are it's a really good lake. It was a lot easier to catch fish when it had a lot of grass in it, like all lakes are. But there's really big fish in Lake Tyler. They're really pressured, and they're really, they kind of key in on some unique structures at times. It's a brush pile lake. If you know where the brush piles are, that makes things a lot easier. It's a good dock lake. Like, it's got good fish in it, and you can go out there and have a time, but you got to have some knowledge of it. It's a hard lake to learn, and you can't just roll up to Lake Tyler and go there and catch them how you want to catch them. You have to learn the intricacies of Lake Tyler. That's the deal with Lake Tyler.
Right.
And I never really have. I've fished it a few times. I've had a couple good days. I've had a couple bad days. It's not something I've fished lately, so I can't speak on current situations. But yeah, that's what I know about Lake Tyler. From knowing a lot of people that do fish it all the time, I've had a lot of conversations about it. Went out to Hubbard today and saw all the shad in the world, but couldn't get a bite. Any tips? Number one tip would be just slow down. It's winter. If you're finding that bait source, that's great. Try to, if it's an offshore deal, try to use your electronics to find the bass, not just the bait fish. But slowing down is the biggest deal. I think people don't understand the extreme level of slowing down that we're referring to at times. I'm talking about crawling a jig painfully slow, like on my creek bend deal on Fort. I crawl that jig through that creek bend so painfully slow, and I do it over and over and over and over and over until I get a bite if I'm confident there's fish in that creek bend. On Hubbard, I don't know where you were finding this bait. Was it in marinas? Was it in riprap? If it's riprap, I'm going to throw a finesse jig a lot on riprap out on Hubbard. If it's in a marina, I'm going to throw an Alabama rig and a jerkbait a lot. If that bait is suspended up so high that you can see it, man, throw a jerkbait and just throw it and throw it and throw it. The big deal is when you get in an area that you're confident has fish, you have to be so methodical and go so slow that, most people just don't get how slow you have to go. I heard Bill Dance say it one time when I was a kid on a fishing show, and it opened my eyes. He said, nobody ever slows down enough. When we're talking about fishing slow, nobody ever slows down enough. He goes, what you need to do is fish as slow as you can imagine fishing right now, and then fish about half that speed.
That's right.
And it was just, a way of getting you to really understand the extreme amount of going slow and being thorough that you have to do sometimes. And I'll tell you, one of the coolest things that kind of started my infatuation with the technical aspects of bass fishing and figuring out bites was when I was a kid. Neighborhood my dad lived in had some retention ponds. He lived in a neighborhood that was on Lake Tahoe. There were some retention ponds around there, and I would always walk around in the morning time and go fishing. Didn't matter what time of year it is, whatever. Well, in the wintertime, I was out there, and I couldn't get a bite. And it was cold, like it was freezing cold. I remember that. And I couldn't get a bite. And I had that old black worm with that pink tail, that fire tail. Right?
Yeah, the old fire tail. The
old
black fire tail.
So that's what I had. And I was throwing it out there, and I wasn't catching nothing. And I threw it out there, and I don't remember if I got a backlash. Like, I was a kid. I was fortunate I started throwing bait caster as a young kid, but I was a kid, so I've had a backlash or 10 in my day.
Take a little line inventory every now and then.
Take a little line. I don't remember if I was picking out a backlash or I was digging around in my worm bag looking for a new color or what I was doing. I just remember I threw my bait out there and let it sit there for a long time. And I was doing something else. And when I picked up my slack and picked up on my bait, and how many times has this happened to y'all? Hit the thumbs up. Give me a like if this has happened to you before. You throw your bait out there and you just leave it sit there. You do something else. And then when you pick up on it, there's a fish on there. Well, that bait had been sitting there for a very long time, and that fish swam off, and I caught that fish that it swam off with it. Okay, so now what do I do, being a kid and just being simple-minded and not overthinking anything? I throw my worm out there and let it go to the bottom.
Just dead stick it.
And I just let it sit there, and I would count to 60 seconds every time. Once I wait for it to get all the way to the bottom. Once it hit the bottom, I count for 60 seconds, and then I would start working my bait up, and I would stop it halfway through the retrieve and let it sit for another 60 seconds. And I'll be danged if I didn't start whacking them. I'm talking about catching them like every few casts. Now, these casts might take 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, but I was catching them. And I figured out a pattern when nothing else would work. And that was one of the first lessons I learned in bass fishing about figuring out patterns and dialing in things like that. Really opened my eyes and got me kind of in love with the sport in a lot of ways. That one day right there did a lot for me. But it just goes to speak to how much you do have to slow down in the winter sometimes as well. So,
like you said, if you think you're going slow enough, slow down even more.
We just went off into story time with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or something
Big
right there. Zach was about to go to sleep listening to that one. Do you ever fish swim baits like the Huddleston on bottom, slow roll, creep it very slowly on bottom during fall and winter? Z-Dub, we got a Z-Dub for president comment. I'm in. My vote has been casted. I done filled out the pre-assigned ballots or whatever they call it. I done did it.
You putting Z-Dub on the right-hand vote?
Oh, no doubt. I'm going to write you in, baby. I'm going to write you in. Dang, what was that last question? I just said this myself.
About slow rolling a swim bait.
Oh, slow rolling big swim baits on the bottom. Yeah, no, that's a great thing to do.
If you can keep it down there, you got to wait that hook.
Yeah, you can keep it down there. The deal is, I love to throw big swim baits for me personally, and Zach can attest to this. There was a time when I did it a lot, but as I've gotten into being a guide full time, and now I'm making this content all the time, there's not really a day that I go to the lake where I don't have to catch them. I'm either having to put fish in the boat for the camera, or I'm having to put customers on fish. Throwing a big swim bait on the bottom is not something where you're going to catch fish every day. Like, you are going to have a lot of days, somebody's waving over the gate, you're going to have a lot of days where you're not even going to get a bite. And so I can't really go do that on days when I'm trying to film or have customers. So I don't spend as much time throwing a big swim bait. But if it was just me and I was going to Lake Fork and I had, a weekend or whatever.
Yeah, some free time, you say.
Right.
And you're looking for that one special
These same
bite.
places we're talking about, bridges, road beds, humps, pond dams, stuff like that. Like, I would 100% have a big swim bait tied on that would be a bottom dweller. And I would absolutely be wanting to throw that. And I might not, knowing and understanding, I might not get a bite. A single bite. Might not get one. It's just part of that deal. So.
Look, I'll go ahead and jump into story time. Man, this was about 10 years before I ever met you, B-Law. Mama T-Dub, when we first moved out here to Texas, coming from Louisiana, I'm the sportsman's paradise, so I grew up outdoors. Well, for Christmas one year, she bought me a guided trip with a person who's no longer a guide out there on Fork, and we went out there about this time of year, and literally, I don't know where, I don't even remember where we were, but it was a little ditch or a little drain way out in the middle of the lake. You'd throw that swim bait out there as far, literally as far as you could. Your arm was sore at the end of the day. You'd let it sink to the bottom, and you would either slow drag it and try to bump it on the bottom all the way back, or you'd raise it up to the top of your head and let it fall all the way back to the boat. But when you did that, jerking it up and letting it fall, it was 15 to 20 seconds between pops.
Yeah.
Just to go as slow as possible. And man, we caught some good fish out.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to do it, man. And I'm gonna tell you, there was a time on Lake Fork when you could be a guide and throw a swim bait a lot, because when the swim bait bite was still kind of a newer thing, like the bigger bait bite was a newer thing around Fork, it wasn't nothing to go catch 30 fish a day on a swim bait. Them days are kind of gone. Like, you're not gonna go throw a big swim bait or a deep swim bait and catch 30 fish on Lake Fork. Very, very rarely will that happen now.
Right.
That used to be a thing that happened. But now, everybody's kind of got into the swim bait craze, and, you're taking those 30 fish a day that you had to yourself. Now there's 10 times the amount of people throwing that big swim bait. Now you're only catching 3. Well,
man, I talk to a lot of people, and I'm not an anti-swim bait guy. I'll throw it as much as anybody, and I'm guilty of what I'm about to say. But I've talked to a lot of people, okay, that used to fish spinner baits nonstop, but they've replaced that with the spinner bait. Or possibly, with the swim bait, or maybe one with an underspin.
The smaller swim baits is a totally different deal. That's a totally, that we throw those a bunch.
Yeah, but I tell you, man, I found myself getting more back to a spinner bait in certain circumstances, because good God, it didn't stop catching fish.
Right.
We just saw something new, like a little shiny toy, and like, oh, let me throw that. You know what I'm saying? So.
They didn't wake up smarter today.
Basically, just remember your history. Remember what you know. If you've been catching fish on a spinner bait for 20 years, and the swim bait comes along and this and that. But don't get me wrong, I will always put some sort of little swim bait behind that spinner bait.
Man, if you got an upgrade to an old toy, you might as well throw that up.
That's right.
I'll say, we're gonna wrap it up with this. We've been running a long time, but I saw one more question that I did want to answer. I saw Todd asked. He said, "When do you have free time?" This man will attest to this. I don't. I changed my schedule this last fall to coach my kids in sports, because I came to a realization. My oldest son, his birthday is in April. And I already had my schedule mapped out in the spring, so I couldn't do nothing about it then. But he turned 9 years old back in April. And I did the math on that, and I said, he's halfway gone. And so I made my schedule adjust to where I could coach them in sports and at least have something where I spent some significant time with my boys. But I don't. I'm obsessed with this deal. I'm in love with this deal. There's nothing I'd rather be doing, and I go hard every single day, 24 hours a day. I watch my kids open presents. Christmas morning, and then I went in there and caught up on some work that I have to do off the water to run my business, and went right back at it today. So,
well, one thing you left out is you're putting so much time into this app, into the Fish Life
we are
app,
working
you know
really
what I'm
hard
saying?
behind the scenes on the app. There's a ton of work that goes into that, especially with this January 1 launch. But yeah, so I have things off the water that I have to do as well. But Zach will attest to this. If I'm awake, I'm working. Like, that's pretty much my deal every day of the year, and it has been for a few years now.
Yeah.
And I found something. I sincerely hope this for every person that's watching this and every person that I ever meet. I hope this happens for them. I have been lucky enough to find something that I am incredibly in love with, that I love doing, that I never, ever, not once do I ever get tired and say, man, I don't want to go. That never happens. And I'm lucky enough to find that thing and have just enough skill to squeak by making a living doing it. I'm not the greatest fisherman in the world. I'm not the greatest fisherman on Lake Fork. I never have thought that I was. But I have enough skill, and I've documented what I do, and you guys book the trips when I show it to you, so thank y'all for that. But I've had just enough skill to get by doing it, and so I never don't want to work on it. I'm always wanting to work on it and get better and do more and help more and provide more information, and it's what I love doing, man. I can't get enough of it. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can't put a price tag on
right.
finding something you love to do and doing it. And you know what OZ-Dub loves to do? He loves to cook it up and eat, and I'm going to tell you that.
It's time to go.
Fine,
We got to get going, man. Thank you guys so much for joining us on Thursday night. We'll be right back here live. Podcast drops tomorrow. Tons of content coming next week, so stay tuned for that. And just one more time, man. Everything that I'm able to do in the end, yes, I've been lucky to find it, but it all happens because of each and every one of you that watches the content and shares it with people and all that. So thank you so very much. And we'll see you next time right here
on your Lake Fork Guide.